Yes, brethren, good evening to you, good afternoon. Good evening, I shouldn't say good afternoon, good evening to you. Here we are again for the shepherd to give the continuing saga of our study on Daniel book, the book of judgment. And we are in chapter 11, and we are starting with verse 14 to 45, which itself could be divided into two parts. So before I go any further, let's again go over, or let's pray. Pray a little revision on what we touched on last Thursday. So let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, thank you again, gracious merciful God. Holy, holy, holy are you indeed, and all your mercies are towards us, and we thank you. I thank you greatly. May you bring your blessed spirit upon me and upon those at home. Receive these words that it may help in understanding the prophecies and continue to bless your servant and to shepherd to carry forth, no matter what, but with you, all things are possible and only through. So, my God, I want to thank you again for this blessedness and this evening period here. And I will share this immediately again with the brethren, sending it onto the YouTube channel so that all could access it. We are coming to a close of Daniel, the book of judgment, and soon to go into the revelation of God's intended work in the second apartment of the Holy Sanctuary, as we are learning of this 27 days and the explanation that Daniel has gotten and is continuing. He didn't get every last thing, but dear Father, you have granted us to know all. So bless, sanctify this study, sanctify this recording, that it will be a sanctifying experience to others who hear it and utilize it for their righteousness' sake, and for your righteousness' sake, that you should place, and their righteousness' sake that we receive from you. Thank you, Father, very much for these. In Jesus' name, amen. So, brethren, again, blessed good evening to you. Where we ended in chapter, we ended this 39 of chapter 11, where the people's self-exaltation is in excess, is again explained by his dividing and gain policy. Good? So if we look at verse 39, it says, verse 38 says, let's take from 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he unsaved, and a God whom his fathers knew not, shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones of present things. Thus shall he do in most strongholds, with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall revive the land again. So this here is showing what the papacy is doing. It is setting up the office of the Pope, not the man, but the office that goes as the vicar of Christ, the one in place of Christ on the earth who can give salvation. The Pope is a strange God in the church indeed at that time, since in his place, since he's the first of this type of God, he is a substitute of Christ. And 2 Thessalonians 2, 2 and 3, 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 and 4 shows that, verse 1 to 18 and verse 10 for verse 3. Now he shall cause these to rule over many, which is the cardinals, then you have the archbishops, then you have the bishops, then you have the priests. And they have ruled over many. Millions of people have been duped with brain and lied to. So Revelation 5 and 8 testify of this. Revelation 5 and 8 actually testifies of this. And this grew to what we know today as symbol power, influence power, and worship power. It is true right? That the people rule over the people's states were political. That is inevitable. But that was only a small geographic area called the Vatican or the little portion of it. However, the papacy rules different types of power apart from political. It used religious overtones to bring people into subjection to their rule. And this type of rule extended over millions of years. The papacy ruled by the following types of powers. Symbol power. You will find this in Revelation 13, sorry, verse 6, then 16 to 18. Influence. To the symbols, influence you. You'll find this in Revelation 13 also. Verse 3, 4, and 12. And then you have worship power. Controlling people through worship by the symbols and the influence that you have. Revelation 13 again, sorry, 4 and 12. They divided the land for you. The papacy divided up the newly discovered lands in the Americas between certain nations that the Roman Church would gain benefits. Too rich, Spain, very staunch Spanish, Portuguese, British, until Britain segregated itself from Catholicism, Dutch, right, Belgium, all these countries were staunch Catholics. When Christopher Colon, who was Christopher Columbus, when he left Spain, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand were the rulers, and they were staunch Catholics, very staunch. So it was easy for that to take place, easy. So when they discovered the western part of the world, the intent was never to head that far. It was to head down to the Cape of Good Hope and go over to India to get new travel routes, because they had to deal with the Muslims at the time, and the Muslims used to lay a heavy toll, a tax upon them. And there were much robberies, much murders at the time. So this is what happened when Christopher Columbus left Spain and went and came west. And this discovery is brought much to the Catholic Church, much. So when we look now at from verse 40 to 45, which itself, from 40 to 50, could be divided into two parts. We have chapter 11, verse 40 and 41, and then we have verse 42 to 45. 40 and 41 serves as a small type of general summary of what is explained further on in Daniel 42 to 45. So let's look at verse 14, because there is something here that I want to touch. We must take into consideration. So after the papacy has its way from 538, something happens. A little time has elapsed. Approximately 1,260 years has elapsed. It says this. And at the time of the end, shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. Now this term here, this first part, called the time of the end, is found 4 other times before this time. Now this is the 5th time it is found. If we look at verse 35, we will find the time of the end again. If we look in verse 27, time appointed, same thing, right? And we are going backwards in the book of Daniel, right? So that is 3, we found 3 times there. If we go further, Let's see, we go further back to chapter 8. You'll find it in verse 17. For at the time of the end shall be division, the furniture of the division. People will start to understand and look and see what the furniture of the division means. And then if you look in verse 19, it says, for at the time appointed, the end shall be. So God had appointed 1,260 years so the people see to do its evil work. And when that time came, it was called the time of the end. Later on, when we go on to chapter 12, we will see of that time. We see the significance. So far, we had 1, 2, then we had it 3, we have it once, we have it 3 times in Daniel, and then after that, we have it twice in chapter 12, which is really a continuation of chapter 11. Remember, Daniel was given 2 visions, but 3 lengthy explanations. Chapter 9, 10, 11, and 12. 3 lengthy explanations of those 2 visions. So, in looking at this whole scenario, verse 40 speaks about the wounding of the papacy and its recovery and restoration of its power. Looking at the time of the end, this period called the time of the end is a time appointed by the creator of the universe and comes after many days, which is years. Now, if you follow Numbers 14, 31, 4, 6, we know that according to prophetic time, a day is a year. According to prophetic time, a day is a year. And we just went through Daniel 8, 17 and 19. But look at this 6 of chapter 8. Very significant. He says, and the vision of the evening and morning, which was told is true. Wherefore, shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. So many days elapsed when the vision starts to come to fruition. That vision comes to fruition in 1798, when men start running to and fro. I don't want to give it away just yet, but that is the fruition of understanding this vision. Daniel was given portions of what will happen during the 23 years of the seal, but the parts of the whole working of the sanctuary and the cleansing of the sanctuary, that he did not understand. But time dating, time dates, due times, prophetic time, dates were given to him. But still, what happened at the literal physical end of it, he will not understood. But he was given a further reasonable explanation of what will happen, excuse me, at the end of these days. So when we turn back now to Daniel 11, verse 27, it says, and both of these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one ear, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. So the time appointed is the time that is appointed for them to work their wicked ways against government and religious legislation or religious dogma together. That is the knowledge in certain prophecies of the Bible were to increase at the time of the end. That is a very important factor to note in chapter 12, because Daniel chapter 11, brethren, ends. Good? Ends in verse 9. Seriously ends in verse 9. Or you could push it back further to verse 4. Let's go to verse 4 first before we go to the others, right? Let's go to verse 4. Why are we going to verse 4? Because Daniel is told to do something. Now, in Revelation chapter 10, we have that John was told to go and take this from the angel and had a book that was open. This part here, the explanation that Daniel had started to get from chapter 10 onward was open. Right? It was open. So here it is 1 now. I'm reading this 4. After he was shown these first three verses, these continued verses from verse 25 of chapter 11, it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book to the time of the end." Now, this is the sixth time this statement is made from chapter 8 to chapter 12. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Wow. Knowledge shall be increased. Knowledge what? Knowledge in certain prophecies of the Bible. In fact, the whole prophetic scheme of things came back after the fall of the papacy. Men was running to and fro. It is called the Great Religious Awakenings. It started in the old world, England and France and Sweden and Norway and all these countries. 88 men around the world was preaching this at the time, was seeking to find out what does these 2300 days signify? What is this sign to be cleansed? They were met, which led to the disappointment of 1844, right? Which led to that. And I am a believer that it should not have happened. If we take our time and depend and wait a little, though the vision tarry, as the first witness says, I can't remember the exact book, though the vision tarry, wait first, wait. So the time of the end, men were running to and fro. When the papacy fell in 1790, the then Protestants who understood prophecy knew what that meant. They understood what the 1,260 days were. Martin Luther, all of them understood the prophetic timeline that was given. But this 2,300 days was baffling to many. Light had been hidden. The dark ages had been centered upon portions of the church itself. The little light that it had, God gave as much as it could. So when Martin Luther, the brilliant reformer, came, and all of us, men started to study scripture. So when 1798 rolled around and the papacy lost its hold on civil authority and it was disbanded for a little while, a short while, then men said, understand, the Bible became the most prominent book after 1798. No other time in history was it any other piece of literature became so prominent and the number one selling piece of literature in the world. That was so because men started to study scriptures. What is the next great event to take place? The papacy has fallen, okay. So then the next thing to happen is that Christ's second coming. Not necessarily no. What was happening is that Christ was final atonement work in the Holy of Holies. That is the work he was starting. So here we are at Brethren. The time of the end brought much Bible study, much searching. Men in England, great men, William Cunningham II, Drummond, Joseph Wolfe, men in Sweden and all these, and you have the child preachers in Sweden. All these things are there, history is there for us to see what had happened. The whole idea of justification, sanctification, all that the pioneering Protestants had left was coming to light. And from the prophecies, we were seeing the whole systematic theology that God had intended. It was now back upon the earth as a piercing, bright light in dark places. No longer could the papacy control. It lost all the people states, all these things. People became more liberal than ever, right? Many falsehoods came up, much falsehoods came up. But the light of the truth grew and it grew. And today, the Sabbatarian Adventist movement, with its sanctuary doctrine, beareth the last message to the world. That is what it was leading to. So from 1790 to 1844, 46 years, men were running to and fro in the prophecies, understanding it. Some interpretations were wrong. Some corrected the interpretations and told their view and their version. But the disappointment came anyway. because the lack of choosing and willing to depend and wait upon the Lord. So when we look at when the time of the end begins, it has to begin after the 3.5 times. In chapter 12, we're looking at 6 to 9, it tells us. In verse 5, for the context that said, then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood another two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when they shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. So the power of the holy people was scattered for 1,260 years. And when that time was up, no more could the papacy hold sway and with what you call systematic genocide over approximately 150 million human beings over that 1,460-year period, where they be allowed. It says, Daniel says, and I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall the end of these things be? And Daniel here now is told, and he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. The time of the end started. The words that he had been spoken, what was being explained to him, was made clearer. The book, this portion of the book of Daniel, was reopened so that the people living at that time will understand the whole issue of the time of the end and what will happen and take place at the end of the 2200-year period. Those days had started in 457 and ended on October the 22nd, 1844. This is the length of time of the first people. This is that length. Right? Daniel 7:25, which we should look at. Daniel 7:25 tells us this. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think that change times and laws, how the gospel is preached, and the laws for Lord, commandments of God. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and dividing of time. So that is time, 360, time, 720, half of a time, 180. So that is 1,260 years in prophetic reckoning. This time is 3.5 years. Prophetically, we know symbolic time. Each has 60 days, right, according to the length of the ancient calendars. And with the day for a year prophecy, as it symbolized in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6, and in Numbers 14:54, when God said that each day for you will be a year. In the 40 days that you are wandering in the wilderness, each day will be 41 years, 40 years of wandering. And those that rejected him in the power, seeing that only Caleb and Joshua believed that they can overthrow the inhabitants of the land, God said, you all will die. Your carcasses will fall in this wilderness. But Caleb and Joshua will go over and take the land. We have multiplied this, so we have extended and come up with an equal date or time period or years of 1,260. Now, there are no saying the calendar was changed. The calendar could change how much you want, you could change it whatever you want it to. It is still 360, and that is pointing you to what the papacy was seeking to do, to destroy. As I stated, in this whole scenario here, when you look at chapter 8, 11, and 12, answers chapter 7:25, and what was changed. They cast the truth to the ground. They brought down the sanctuary of Christ. All this was done That is the changing of times, and they will move the Sabbath altogether and try to contort the second commandment about the idolatry. Sorry, all of that is there. So please, be not deceived with this daytime and calendar change and how the Sabbaths be kept and all that foolishness. It has not changed. It cannot change because it deals with salvation and what the people came to do, making itself a strange God in the church and deceiving many. So God has brought light back. He has brought back the sanctity of Jesus Christ is at this present time as high priest in the Holy of Holies, meeting up his final numbers, even the royal controls that he will have amongst the 144,000. So, since it covers the length of the early people, it must start at 538 ACI and would lead us to 1798 ACI. Thus, the time of the end started in 1798. The time of the end in dealing with all the falsehood and the folly of papalism. It did that. Now, when we look at the other part of the verse in chapter 11, right, verse 40, it says here, shall the king of the south push at him? This power is really Egypt. The king of the south symbolized Egypt. What happened in Egypt? Simple. Pharaoh said, I know not Yahweh, and I will not let the people go. That is showing that he is taking himself to be God above all gods. Atheistical power. So this atheistical power happened at a certain time and it pushed at him. Now, a type of that, you can look at chapter 11, the same 11, you can look at 8 and 9. And then we could go into all the other scriptures that point on who it really was. So let's look at 8 and 9 of chapter 11. I'm reading verse 7 for the context because it starts with this. But out of the branch of all roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. Earlier in the study of Daniel, I showed this is the Ptolemies fighting against the Seleucids, the two generals that dominated after Alexander had passed. So he's called the king of the north. In this reign here, we see that the papacy is called the king of the north. Will be called the king of the north. And so shall carry captives, and shall also carry captives into Egypt with their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold. And it shall continue more years than the king of the north, which is the king of the south here being Ptolemy. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. So that is the first terminology. Now I'm using it in context in terminology. See, we have the king of the south, the king of the north. How it is used further on in Daniel is not in that light. The papacy became the king of the north. See that Rome ousted these two nations, the Seleucid Empire and the Ptolemaic Empire. And when the Roman Empire fell, the papacy took over, making them the king of the north. Who then will be the king of the south? Let us look closer again. We can look at that in Exodus chapter 5. Yeah, we can look at that in Exodus chapter 5, verse 2. Let us listen to what Pharaoh and what Pharaoh is saying. So the God of the Jews or Israel at the time who was in captivity for 450 years. So in chapter 5, we are looking at this. Oh, I missed that. Let's start. In chapter 5, we are looking at verse 2. We'll read verse 2 in Exodus 5. Let's read verse 1. And afterward Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith Yahweh God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not Yahweh, neither will I let Israel go. So this is showing, this is an atheistical, this is how Pharaoh viewed the God of the Israelites. They are not believing that the God of the Israelites was involved. He was God. He was the incarnate Son, Ra, Son God Ra, in his person, the office he held as King of Egypt. But in symbolic language, it will leave a different connotation. When his power would rise around 1790 and push out the papacy to bring him. It is known as the Illuminati. That is what it is known as. The Illuminism was started by Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit, but Jewish in his life. So what he did, he started, right? He would have started this idea, what we know today as the main elements of the protocols of science, and making that impact a manifesto. By the 1840s, we know it as the Communist Manifesto, written by Frederick Engels and Karl Marx. His real name was Karl Marx. He was Jewish. And he took the communistic view of the French Revolution from former authors who supported the protocols of the learned element society, all those that teaching. Jacques de Molay, who formed the Jacobins, the sons of Jacob, as they call it. Jacobins, French for sons of Jacob. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. All these are French Indians, men who were Catholics. Jean-Marie Arnaud, which will be Frontier, Danton, Diderot, all these men, Maximilian Robespierre, were former Catholics who saw the priestcraft and the wickedness, and they decided enough was enough, and they rebelled, of which God said in Daniel chapter 11 that those that once worship him will turn on him, will turn on him. If I can find it back here, I will read it out. Right. Now, here it is mentioned in verse 25 and verse 26. Let's just read it to see. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, which is the infidels that existed in France. Now, the reason why France was made on the Merovingian, so this king of the France made the Catholic Church the correctors of all heretics in the Western Roman Empire. That is 5-8. In Daniel chapter 12, we will come to that date, right? When they made the papacy the go-to body in the beginning and the setting up of their bomb vessel. The king of the south let's read it again. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Who are those? Yea, they that feed of the portion of his food, which is his meat, shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Now, how Daniel 11 is, in verse 27, we see something contrary to what we were reading. 27 supposed to be where 25 and 26 is. So 25 is supposed to come down with 27 and 26 seats, so to speak. I did show all of that prior. Back up again, and you need to go into it, right? You need to go. When you watch from this 20, let's say 21, it was 24. That is the joining of the church, religious dogma, and legislation, getting the support from the government, the legislative power. So seeing that these turn on the PPC, good, this is Romanism, we could find that thing repeated in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, which we will go through soon. So in chapter 11, we look at verse 7. Now, after the 1,260 years, during that period, just as it was about to end, something happened in 1798 in France. Open revolution against Louis XVI. Good? And his wife, Marie Antoinette. Now, France was not in need of a revolution, but the Jews, the Illuminists, the Jacobins, they started to stir up the masses. They started to say, away with this papacy, away with monarchy, because the papacy and monarchy go arm in arm, which is religious foundation together, monarchism together. So in chapter 11, the services, and when they shall have finished their testimony, which is the papacy, which is the Bible, for the 1,260 years that it witnessed in sackcloth and ashes, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against the Bible and shall overcome them and kill them. So the beast, this unnamed creature, which later on in chapter 7 is called as colored creature, attacked the scriptures. They had to get rid of the scriptures. Just as what the people see them. But when attacking the scriptures, they attack the scriptures to the people see and thinking, this is how it was. This is what Christianity is. Prescribe, wickedness. And they see the immorality that was going on in France. Now, the French are naturally immoral, infidelity in their behavior. The French are naturally like that. Naturally, that is how they are. People will talk about free love and all that with foolishness. That is so, previous moral improprieties. Look at verse 8. It says, and their body shall lie in the street of the city, with spiritual called Sodom, sexual immorality, and Egypt, atheism. Where also our Lord is crucified, where they murdered the servants of Christ, or murdered Christ in the person of the servants. He said Bartholomew Day Massacre took place where? Like 16 something. That took place in France. Huguenots were hunted over his French Protestant were hunted to almost extinction until the Caribbean, to Louisiana, and also down into the Caribbean, Trinidad, Martinique, all these French speaking countries. They had to escape. They were almost annihilated. Some of them fled to some of the African, some of the French colonies in Africa. They had to escape. So this shows what was going on, why the reprisal upon Catholicism, which is the hand of God upon that wickedness, which is very important, brethren, to keep in mind, keep it in mind. So I just want to quote something from N.M. Nicholas, World Conspiracy, a conspirational book, page 172 says this. In 1798, the French army led by the Illuminati, a communistic secret order entered Rome, took the Pope, then Pope Pius VI, captive, and abolished the papacy under direct orders from the Rothschild, particularly Nathan Rothschild. Thus, the papacy was wounded, as Revelation 13, 3 and 10 shows. Now, this is in the book, so let's see what is being said. Chapter 13, looking at verse 3 and 10, he says, and I saw this beast, a scarlet color, this leopard-like beast, that had the feet of a bear, the mouth of a lion, right? Right? It had the body of a leopard, the feet of a bear, and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon, the devil, gave him his seat, extremely much authority. I saw one of his heads. It had 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns upon the heads. I saw one of the heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after this. So the death-like wound that we have seen told here is the Council of Trent phase, when they solidified the doctrine and persecution of all Protestants. That was wounded in 1798. Verse 10 says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Many priests went into captivity, those who have led others to captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Many priests were killed with the sword of the people, the innocent ones that was killed by the sword. Here is the patience and faith of us, the saints. Here we are, the patience and faith of the saints is granted to us through this. Pastor, go forward. The way patience should be the right way, it should be endurance, endurance, and the faith of us, the saints of God, who have lived through such things and will continue to live through it until Christ is coming back a second. So, the king of the north versus the king of the south is an ongoing teaching. Mind you, in the very end, you'll believe both of them will join arms just to get rid of those that stand up against all the doctrinal, all the conspirational plans. Although they're warring one another now, that gap is being closed in and united together against the righteous. Wait and see. Just be prepared, please. Just be prepared. So, the other part of the verse in chapter 11 says, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. And then into those countries and countries that hold to this communistic manifesto, this illuministic communistic view. And they are known by what the Jews. There is a book I've been trying to place my hands on, and I'm telling you, I cannot recall the name of the author, but the author, the name of the book is Communism Jewish? That's the question that is asked. When I found the book, I tried every known site where to get books PDF. Nobody has. No one. I would desperately like to get my hands on that. If somebody could get a PDF copy where I could get it printed out, much so, to see the things. Now, the same concepts of wanting a king in the book of Samuel, King Samuel, is the same concepts that communism holds when Samuel told them what the king would do. The Jews, that is what the Jews want. No, that is what the Zionists seek after. The first Zionist council took place in 1849 or 18 something. That has, in the 1800s, I am showing you the exact date I can call at this time. So these are the things that are there before us. Now, so when we look at this whole thing at the short, we see that behavior, that kind of infidelity that and skepticism that developed in Egypt over Yahweh, symbolizes this body, the French Revolution, and what the French had. But let's look now at the king of the north. Of course, this was ancient Babylon and symbolizes modern Babylon, which is the papacy. Jeremiah chapter 1, Jeremiah chapter 1, and we look at verse 14, I think, Bishop. Yeah, verse 14. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 14 says this. Then Yahweh said unto me, out of the north, and evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. Meaning, if we read on, let's see, we can read from verse 11. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Jeremiah, is thou? And I said, I see a rod of an almond tree. Then said Yahweh unto me, thou hast well seen, for I will hasten my way to perform it. And the word of Yahweh came unto me the second time, saying, what seest thou? And I said, I see a seasoned pot, and the face thereof is toward the north. So he's symbolizing what he's going to do. Who came from the north against Judah? Babylon. Babylon. What does Babylon symbolize? Let us go further on to read another part of the first witness, Jeremiah chapter 4. We can look at 6 and 7. Set up the standard toward Zion. Retire, stay not. For I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. The lion is come up from his thickets, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to the land, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. So he is prophesying of what will take place. What will take place? Why? In chapter 3, verse 20, this is what Judah has done. God is saying, surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, treacherousness is deceitfulness, so have you dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, saith Yahweh. So this is why he will bring this upon them. What does this symbolize in these modern times? We can look at, I could take one more. Let me just take one more before we go into the New Testament in Jeremiah 25, verse 9. It's an important point to read. Jeremiah 25, verse 9 tells us this. 25, verse 9 says, 9. Behold, I will take all the families of the earth, saith Yahweh, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and a perpetual desolation. So you see who it is. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So that will symbolize the king of the north, will symbolize who it is. We know Nebuchadnezzar is not alive, and the nation Babylon doesn't exist. At this time, Babylon had fallen, because when Daniel got this explanation in the third year, right, of Cyrus, king of Persia, was getting this. The angel told him in 11:1, also the first year of Darius the year. So the Babylonians had passed. This was Cyrus' was getting the explanation of what he was seeking on the 2012 days. And he got it clear and concise. So let's now turn to Revelation 17 to see who this Babylon is. Who is this Babylon that is being spoken of? In Revelation 17, 3 to 6 shows you this. I'm reading from this one to the context. Now, after chapter 16, which is the plagues, further explanation is given about these plagues upon this body, this religious body. It reads like this. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Or look how Babylon is called, spiritual Babylon that is, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, that is church and religious dogma united in one bond. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Drunk with that wine. Wine is doctrine. In the Bible, it symbolizes doctrine. Spiritual adultery took place between church, religious dogma, and legislation. Wine symbolized doctrine, the fornication. People believe that the government should have control and unite with religious authorities to enforce their religious beliefs. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. At this time, the earth is a wilderness here because the plagues coming down on it. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This same creature we just read in Revelation 11:7 appeared out of the bottomless pit. This is the creature, a new thing Satan has brought up. We have 7 heads and 10 horns to control the world. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a cup, a golden cup in her hand, full of abomination and the filthiness of her fornication. That's all the doctrine, all the falsehoods, everything. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So look at who it is. Is this not Roman Catholicism? Is this not the papacy? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. So let's just take this final part here now, and I'll close off, and then we will touch with 41 onward at our next sitting, and at our next attempt. All right, brethren? So let's look at this. Now, reading this little part with Sunday and the Illuminati and all these things. So, what happens in chapter 11, as we read this part, and the king of the north shall come against the king of the south like a whirlwind, because the king of the south now is more bringing atheistic views, same-sex marriage rights, all the folly and foolishness that we can think of, all the immorality that we can think of under the sun, the king of the south pushed. So it will come against him like a whirlwind with chariots, with horsemen, and with many ships. That's many nations joining with the papacy against this push. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overthrow and pass over. So when this statement here, this is the revival of the shortly after its abolition, the papacy was re-established. A new pope was elected, and just the papacy began to confront the Illuminati through the countries that it controlled. So they had a undermining, just as how the Illuminati undermined it and came in, the same thing the papacy started doing. That is why we had the Jesuits, because they, the two institutions in the Catholic Church, in schools and religions, doing all that they can to get back power. Now, the papacy will conquer through symbol, influence, and worship power once again, and get a Sunday law implemented in the nations. This is what is the mark of the beast. So let us look at that in Revelation. That is what the mark of the beast is. In Revelation 13, it will come back and get back the strongholds that it was held short time, a very short time, because those same scarlet-colored beast that I read that it was riding, that is seated on, will turn and devour her flesh and burn her with fire. So in chapter 13, we're looking at verse 3, and 4, and then 12 to 17. Right, let's read it. 13, 3 and 4 says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world went back to the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? That's those whose names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Our names are there because we keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus, which is the third angel's message that we preach at this present time, which will really come into what Revelation 18 has, the fourth angel's message. A whole big thing that engulfs the world and enlightens the earth into its glory. Good? So now when we look at from verse 12 to verse 17, then we see it. Now to stand in this situation, brethren, I am saying, if you know you have not repented and believed in the gospel of Jesus Christ and make Jesus Christ your Lord and your personal Savior, you will succumb to this. We dealt with justification in chapter 11 from this, when people see changed the whole idea of salvation, how salvation should be. Times and laws, they change how salvation should be. They interfere with the work of Christ in full survival, but they could not stop that which is in the second, because judgment was given in favor of the saints. That we should be true and living God to preach that final message, which we have in Revelation 18, as I stated, in 14 chapters. So when we start from verse 33, from verse 32 onward to verse 35, we see that this justification is an inward change. This is what makes you able to withstand this in Revelation chapter 13, from verse 12. We read, because remember, 3 years read, it will be reinstated. It will get back its authority through the work of the fallen Protestants, which we know today as the evangelical churches. But the true people that will know their God and do experience will spread the light of the truth. That is the wise, the intelligent ones, us, the keepers of the faith of Jesus Christ and also his commandments. Verse 12 says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, this new body in the United States, and caused the earth and them which dwell there to worship the first beast, the papacy, whose deadly wound was healed. So that death-like wound they had, and what the papacy held, was healed. Let us see what is this healing that takes place. And he did great wonders, so that he made fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So great miracles have been done. We have that in the evangelicals. And deceiving them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So this power, the religious power of the United States, which was once steadfast Protestantism, now becomes a fallen entity, or in Revelation, when we come to Revelation, the false prophet, that is what they are called in the book of Revelation, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and the blood. You know, we should make something similar that what existed between 538 to 1790. And he, this body, this new nation, or this lamb-like looking creature, this lamb-like looking creature that had 2 horns like a lamb and speak as a dragon, and he had power to give life, legislative life, unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be murdered. Again, bringing back the same thing that happened during the 1,260-year period, that they should be murdered. And he caused them all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in his right hand or in his forehead, on their foreheads. That meaning a knowledge and those that happen to be right and doing it for experience's sake, though they don't believe in it. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, that's one thing, Sunday holiness, Sunday sacredness, the name of the beast, the papacy, or the number of his name. These 3 sixes symbolize vicarious really. I have to believe that the papacy are the ones who can forgive your sin. They are in place of Christ on the earth. So this, brethren, as we stop here, is the part that we have to look at closely as we continue from verse 41 on to 45, then into chapter 12. All right? So let's close up with a word of prayer. Be thankful for this little portion. As I said, this that we read here shows this the mark of the beast belongs to the papacy, Sunday sacredness. To make that image, legislation is needed, and the United States of America will do so. When the preaching of the message, the 4th angel message, swells into a crescendo, they need to do something about it to stop it. They will blame all the Seventh-day Adventists or the little companies that stand in the light, that stand right to the abomination done in the church and England. They will blame them, systematically seek to do what they did 1,260 years, right to against the righteous. So let us close off with prayer as we can continue this. Dear Father in heaven, thank you again for your loving kindness and mercy in Jesus' name. Continue to bless us with these understandings and give us the light of the truth that we have for your honor and glory. So be with us, guide us, and keep us, I pray, in Jesus' name. And may I present this to the brethren as soon as it is ready for them. Amen. So brethren, have a blessed evening and see you all soon. Okay? Bye.